Ever had a question about sex? This is your chance to anonymously ask your most burning questions to a panel of certified sex educators. Let's shed light on misconceptions, challenge social taboos, and ignite positive change in comprehensive sex education. Get ready to flip the switch, share your thoughts, and spark a transformative movement in sex education. Presented by Toronto's distinguished educators within the sex and health industries, spilling the tea on everything except a condom on a banana. Are you ready?
You are so lucky to be sitting in front of such gorgeous individuals here today. But I will not be the one to toot their horn. I will let them introduce themselves. We'll start with our handsome gentleman over here.
There. My name is Chase. I've been a sex worker going on 13 years now. So I guess that's where my expertise is for this panel.
Hello. So my name is Sam. My pronouns are she, her. I work in this building. So I'm very easy to find. And I've been doing youth sex education, specifically with like high school and university age folks for, going on a decade now. I love it. Super fun.
I guess we're passing the mic down like hot potato. My name's Janika Jewell. Pronouns are she and her. I've been a sexual health educator for 6 years now, and I currently also work with Shore going into high schools, talking to youth about sexual health education.
Flip the switch. Get it?
Y'all already made me sit on my bad side, so also flashing everybody at home. Hi, I am Samantha Biddy, pronouns she and her. I am a sex and consent education drag queen. What else? A sexy clown, amongst others. I've been teaching sex ed either in a peer model or in like this capacity for almost 20 years. Thank you. We need gasps. But yes, I think I already said. Yeah, I'm. You'll find out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. So this panel is all about sex education 101. And when it comes to sex education, we have been, oh God, maybe some of the worst sex ed that we've had when we were first exposed to at a very young age. So I'd like to ask our panelists, what was your first experience with sex education?
So I grew up in Saskatchewan. So sex ed down there was very, let's say, not much of a sex ed. So I guess my first experience with sex ed was with a partner of mine. My first boyfriend taught me the ins and outs of what HIV was, how to get STIs, how to stay safe with gay sex. So that's my experience.
Yeah. So I, probably similar to a lot of people here, had a Ontario sex education, which is very much girls go here, boys go here. Girls, we're going to teach you what a period is, and boys, we're going to teach you how to put a condom on, and we're going to teach you not to get pregnant and not to get an STI, but that's just through abstinence. And that's like all they teach you, right? None of it is queer or trans inclusive, or, maybe everybody should get all the information, and maybe that's why people don't know what periods are.
Most of the sex education I received was on like the reproductive system, but my true introduction was in the 7th grade. I went to a birthday party, and the birthday boy locked all of us in the basement and put 2 girls, 1 cup on the surround sound.
Are you serious?
Yes.
2 girls, 1 cup on this.
And we're all in grade 7. What are you, like 12, I think? So that was like my first introduction to sex in relation to porn.
Wow.
Yes.
I've literally never even seen that in like.
You don't have to. I
feel like fortunately I was something, it missed me. So thanks. My first experience or introduction to sex education was through mom's Cosmo magazines. Y'all know what Cosmo is, right? Like
The
101
drink?
no,
Oh.
not the drink. The women's magazine
Mhm.
where every month there's 101 ways to please your man. Like there isn't 101. Like
Only 101
only 101 every month though. Like shit,
every month.
I'm tired. I'm fucking tired. I just remember she would like kind of like leave the Cosmo magazines like in the washroom or whatever. And I just remember very distinctly reading the cover of one and it was like how to have your best orgasm or something like that. And me asking my mom and like reading about it and being like, okay. And then reading about it, asking my mom, like, what's an orgasm? And she was like, it's a feeling you. So that's why I became a sex educator. I was like, is that so? It's not so. So that I was about, all this to say, I was about 10 years old. So it was before they started talking about anything beyond like, this is your junk, don't touch it.
I remember when I was 10 years old, my parents told me that if I masturbated, I would go blind. But look at me, I'm masturbating right this second. You just don't know it. I mean, I masturbate and I go blind for other reasons, but so it sounds like we've all had a wild experience when it comes to sex education. And Samantha Biddy, I would like to ask you this question. Why is it important that we're all leaning towards a more comprehensive sex education curriculum?
Thank you for that question, Tim. Um, yeah, it's important. And like when we say comprehensive, so a lot of times we hear the language of like inclusive or like diverse anytime sex education is anything besides penis and vagina, cisgendered, heterosexual, monogamous, all those things. And, Tim and I've had conversations as well as like with some of you other folks about the importance of calling it or naming it as comprehensive versus inclusive, because even with the language inclusive, we're like assuming a certain norm or default setting to our sex, our gender, our sexuality, our attraction, all those things. And so teaching comprehensive sex education also requires us not to like other, this gender spectrum or the sexuality spectrum and all those things, and just to speak about it in ways that is just normal. It's like it's literally just normal. If anybody wants to have sex and they are having sex, then they should have education that reflects their experiences, and they should be able to bring those experiences to their learning spaces, whether that is informed by their racialization, their education, their language, their physical or neurological ability. Like all of those things are part of comprehensive sex education as well as comprehensive consent education. And at the end of the day, like when we give people the information that is relevant to them, they're going to make decisions that are moving towards what it is they do want versus just trying to avoid the bad thing. Right. And so when people and like studies and whatever prove it, I'm not the academic here. There are other folks here who are the academics. I do know that studies do show that when people have information, they make, good decisions, right? They make the decisions that align with their values and how they treat other people. And so all this to say, comprehensive sex education is important because it saves lives. Our sexual health is such a huge part of our mental health and our mental well-being and our relational well-being. And until everybody has access to information about their relationships and how they feel inside, then we're putting people at risk. And I think that that is reflective not just of gender and sexuality, but of their religion, their racialization, like all those things are part of it. So I hope that answers that.
No, it does.
Okay, cool.
But my next question then is, I mean, I probably know the answer to this, but do you think what we have right now is comprehensive? Even just a little bit?
Where?
Okay, fair here. Yeah. In Canada.
Toronto, in Canada.
Yeah.
It actually ranges across the country, right? We can't speak to everywhere because, and like you work within academia and like both of you all do. So that it's like what we're allowed to teach changes depending on who our government of the day is. right? So there have been periods in Ontario where we've had like bright spots where they're like, okay, we're going to teach, harm reduction. We're going to teach folks about how to stay safe online, all these things. And they were like, no, like, the conservative government was like, no, we're not going to do that. Good luck, everyone. By that, I mean, I never wished you good luck, Simpsons reference, anyone? No? No, we do not.
No,
No, we
not
fucking
at all.
don't. And I believe in disruptive education. That's why I do what I do the way I do it. But I also think that symbolically it's important that we have comprehensive or at least meaningful or at least empowered sex education. But yeah, no, literally not at all.
Fully agree. Now, because our sex education is not that comprehensive, let's talk about the consequences of what's happening right now. Samantha DeFranco, you are here in Toronto Metropolitan University. So, not too long ago, something very controversial happened, and it goes by the name of the 1 Million March for Kids. So, being here in TMU, you must have been at the crux of it all. What has been the ramifications of poor sex ed that led to something like the Million March?
Yeah, we very much saw that here. We had like students coming into my office, or like, I work in a series of offices, our equity centers, so our trans collectives there and our queer spaces there. And we had a lot of students like very, very upset and overwhelmed, and seeing all of this on the news, or seeing this like walking down the street, like that's really upsetting to see people who actively want to cause you harm when you're just trying to walk around. And I think it is very much a lack of education a lot of the time. We don't learn about queer and trans stuff in our current education system, or even the parts that are in the curriculum. Like, it's being taught by a lot of the time a cis het teacher who is just like, yes, I have to tell you that queer and trans people exist. Goodbye. And that's what you learn, right? Like, okay, great, thanks so much. So, I think that there's changing sex education norms that are saying, okay, now we should be teaching this more, but we've got a bunch of parents and teachers who are the ones who are supposed to be teaching it who weren't given any of that education, right? So you end up with people with no education doing that teaching, or who are being told their kids are going to be taught these things and don't know what they're going to be taught because they don't know what that actually means, right? So I think there's this big kind of generational gap that we're seeing that's leading to a lot of misinformation and a lot of confusion. And when we actually have those conversations, even with people who are at first kind of resistant, right? Because we do a lot of like tabling on the street just to kind of meet students, because this campus is a lot of buildings, and people will come up to us and they'll ask us questions and they'll be confused. And when we actually have those conversations with students or with anyone, people don't want to hate each other. They don't want to cause harm, right? But everything is so politicized and so kind of these different factions. I think that's causing a lot of the harm.
Yeah, because like, what the heck is gender ideology?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is it a new religion? Like
It
jeans?
seems like it.
Oh my god, gender ideology could be my new drag name.
That would be a great
I am now
drag
retiring
name.
my original drag name, Ava Gina, to gender ideology.
I would watch your performance any day of the week.
I heard another great drag name, Tess Tickle.
Yes.
Isn't that great?
That's very
I
good.
know.
My drag name is James Bondage.
James
so-
Bondage.
Yeah.
Hey. That's hot.
Thank you.
But yeah, like I just find it like how the ignorance of it all is causing so much harm, because I guess I'm trying to think of a better world here, that like ignorance is just going to be like fear, but no, it leads to like violence and it leads to hatred, and it's like, ugh, it's not cute. That's such a demure way to say it, but it's just not cute.
Acceptance is hot. So that's why you should learn.
Yes. So let's shift the conversation a bit to the more frontline side of it. And I'd like to speak to Jace about this. The fears and the ramifications of ignorant sex ed. You being in sex work for 13 years? 13 was it? Yeah. It's been a while. It's been girl, I'm like 13.
Yeah.
Which virgins are you sacrificing to keep your skin so glowy? But like, can you talk to us about some of the things that you've seen in the field where ignorance and, you know, lack of knowledge have kind of affected your clients and their attitudes towards sex?
Yeah, I would say I spend a lot of my time with my clients educating, teaching them kind of the sliding scale of sexuality. You know, don't get hung up on the label. You're here, just have fun, let's explore ourselves. But I do spend majority of my time educating, you know, making sure they feel okay with this choice and what they're doing. And a lot of it is they're here because they want to experiment something new or try something new. But a lot of people are just curious because they are not taught anything, like literally. Like I don't know, I'm teaching people a lot in my day-to-day, for sure.
That's really interesting because you would think that sex work is, you know, lying down and feet behind your ears and
Yes,
ready to
it's part of it.
go.
Yes. It is a part of it.
Yeah, that is a part of it. But like your average Joe wouldn't really think,
Yeah,
it wouldn't occur to them that
we have a
there's,
Hollywood idea when it comes to
yeah.
prostitution, where in reality we're just everyday people, like everybody. You know, a lot of people just want companionship, and you know, we live in such an isolated world with our phones and our social media. So it's more important than ever to have human connection, and
Mhm.
that's what people I find are looking for.
What are some of the things that you've seen that your clients have been like apprehensive of, or like, that's not true? Like, what are they finding are taboos?
13
How
years.
long do you have?
There's too many. It's too many. I don't know. I've heard everything. Like there's nothing I haven't heard because this is my job for full time 13 years. Nothing else. So I've been hourly. I've been around the world. I've done in other countries. It's I cannot pin something really. It's all over the board. I'm serious. It's
What's a memory that stands out though? Like something that was like, oh my God, you didn't know that?
how to pass on HIV was a big one. I would say
Wow.
I do a lot of education with that. Not understanding condoms or what PrEP is either. PrEP is not talked about a lot in the head. Lots of PrEP conversations and education on that. And I'm passing them along to doctors that I know as well. Yeah, PrEP.
That's good.
Mhm.
So you are in a way educating
Yes, all the time.
and
Behind those scenes,
Can I
behind
ask
the
a
lines.
question? I want to ask a question as well. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
yeah, go ahead.
I'm
Yeah, go ahead.
so um I think when you say the thing about like the Hollywood ideal of like what sex workers do and their role in the community, I think it is really important to talk about the way that sex workers are like were like our first sex educators and like definitely like lead the charge in a lot of ways. Like first, when COVID first dropped, spent time off my phone. It was like when COVID dropped in 2019, 2020, yeah, honestly, it was Maggie's and Butterfly Project that came out with narratives or language about how to have safer sex. And that was like a really important thing because the governments were talking about brain holes and all that at that time. So when I think about, I just want to like name that and give credit where credit's due, but like I also the question that I had was like, you know, of course there's like the like the ins and outs of like sex stuff that you're educating around, but do you also find that like a huge part is like the relationship education, right? Where you're teaching people how to treat you, you're showing them the practice and you're showing them, you know, like even though there is like a transaction occurring, so to speak, that there are still ways that we like treat each other and then they can like, then take that information back to their relationship. Like,
Oh, absolutely. I would say I spend a lot of time holding my clients, like having that close body to body contact. People need that. And so there is a story that I have about a young man from Vancouver that I helped come out of the closet. And I went back 7 years later and he hired me. He was the partner and he just wanted to give me the stuff. So he gave me the thing for the leg and he told me how much I changed his life when I helped him with his parents. He was a heavily Muslim background, so he had this huge transformation after he met me, right? So he really stood out to me for sure. And he just wanted to give me my full rate just to say how much I changed his life. So,
You're doing the Lord's work. Come through, Jays. Yes. That's amazing. You're coming door to door, direct to consumer. A different kind of Santa coming down your chimney. We can go on forever with these innuendos. We're not going to get anywhere. But I want to talk about, so we know the ramifications, of course, of that, but I also don't want to discredit some of the things that we've done. So, Janika, with your background in uh, reproductive education in Planned Parenthood, what do you think we're getting right about sex education now?
I feel like we're giving youth more opportunities to like ask questions and speak up, and also creating spaces in the classroom for them to ask the questions that they're afraid to ask their kids or parents or even their friends. Like I online work and the amount of conversations that I did in class. Hey, I feel safe enough to talk about this. Thank you for creating that space. And then them asking follow-up questions to that is so transformational. And I just love that we just created a lot of things to speak up and not and we're destigmatizing a lot of things as well.
Can you share with us an experience of a youth interaction where they had kind of like this light bulb moment?
I have them every day. I really love myself. So usually at the end of my workshop, I use cue cards, yes, and I ask questions, and then I like a snowball. And I've had students write on the cue card, "Thank you so much. I thought that my yeast infection was an STI, and I thought that my vagina was ugly, but that my vulva was ugly." And talk about how they look different shapes, different sizes, and in their body, or offering up different ways for them to communicate with their partners. And I would also say that we're doing a lot of great consent work. And I think that's not something that was talked about a lot before. And just providing youth and young adults with more terminology and more groups and thinking about relationships and go throughout them like safer and more comfortable.
Right, because consent just doesn't like, no is no or yes is yes. What about like consensual non-consent? Like, no, right? That's so like that's not something that you would normally think of when it comes to the standard Toronto District School Board education system. So, what do you think is factually incorrect within our education system with specifically sex?
Maybe have
We've got a little bit of time.
like you mentioned before, there's not a lot of queer education at all. Even when I started school, there wasn't that into the curriculum. And like queer people exist. Like they also have
They
sex.
do? What?
Exactly.
Where?
They're everywhere. They're among us. Don't be
They're
scared.
among us. The imposter.
But that is missing. I'm shocked.
Just yesterday. Girl, I had it this morning.
I had sex with myself this morning too. Let's go.
Ew.
Yes, definitely we're missing a lot of queer sex education. I think aftercare is also missing, and I
Preach.
think that educators and parents just don't want to talk about sex with their kids, but their kids are having sex. So wouldn't you rather them make informed, pleasure-based decisions around their own bodies instead of just going out into the world and having to make those mistakes on their own?
Yeah. Make those mistakes, learn from it, and then be a better person. What? Learning from your errors is a thing? Who knew?
I will say when the march was taking place, I have a lot of mom moms that are in their 20s that I went to high school with and were advocating to like get trans their education removed curriculum or just like sex education overall. And I had to message some of them and say, like, the call is coming from inside the house. Like, if you have kids from a young age in high school, that's not to shame you, but I'm also saying like you didn't receive sex education either. And maybe if you had the tools, maybe that would have been delayed a little bit. And they're also not having those conversations with their kids at home. So I'm like, where are they supposed to find those resources and information?
So if not at school, then where,
And where?
right? And then you're gonna be like, I will teach my kid this on my own. But it's like, when? Show us the receipts, babe. When is that gonna happen? Ugh. So, uh, on the topic of like lots of questions being asked, especially for, I have done us the liberty of collecting some questions from our audience and from just the general population. No, not the general population. I wish I was that popular. No, just some my fan mail, Sex Ed with Tim. So, first question I've got here is let's go to Jay. How do you know what your sexuality is if you ever had sex? How do you know your sexuality even if you have had sex?
I think I focus so heavily on putting these and when you're first starting out, you don't really go with the flow and don't worry about the signal as long as there's a lot of connection and between partners. I think just don't worry about it. That would be from what I've seen on my end would be that. That's hard. It's a hard question to answer.
It is
Really. Yeah.
hard, but it's kind of like a personal journey
It's a personal
that,
journey, yeah,
yeah,
because I know my sexuality, of course,
it was right
judgment.
under your nose the entire time.
Yeah, but told it, right? So yeah, it took me a long time, but I wish people would just stop putting it on the
Mm,
yeah.
yeah,
Can
right.
I add on to that?
Yeah.
I feel like people often forget that there's two cues in the like rainbow initialism, like the second one being questioning. And everyone is so concerned, am I lesbian enough? Am I gay enough? But the cue, the questioning is in there so that if the label is not working for you, you can release it. You can figure it out. It's also going to change throughout your life for some people. And I just feel that there's cues in it. Those people that are just trying to figure out their orientation, their identity.
For a second, when you said Q, I thought you meant like Kwewe. Q. There's two Qs where lines. My brain just went Kwewe. All right, the next question I've got here is for Samantha Biddy. Is having an orgasm the same as squirting?
No. There we go. Um, no.
No.
Like, okay, so this question actually comes out like even just the whole idea of like, is squirting real? Is there such a thing as like, quote unquote female ejaculation? I don't know where this need for female like, but anyway, it's like we were born with vulvas and vaginas and clitori.
That's the plural of
Yeah.
it? Clitori?
Clitori. All I know is I have a torn meniscus, and when there's two meniscus, that's in your knees. They call them menisci. So I'm like, if meniscus, clitoris, if menisci, then clitori, right?
Logic.
Clitoris it is.
Clitoricicicicin.
Um, that like those bodies can ejaculate in a way that we um, connect with or relate to like the way that penises ejaculate. Some of them don't. Um, some of them do, but it's not the like, "Phew," like I feel like when people learn about sex
Makes that sound.
from Pew! I feel like when people learn about sex from porn, they which is not a bad thing inherently. It's not inherently bad. I think that like any media, like any entertainment, we have to treat it with critical thinking and have competency around it. Not all bodies are going to look or perform or present or whatever in those ways all the time, right? Like sometimes, like your bodies are going to change and they're going to express. in different ways. And so the same way that like not all penises are like, you know, like that way. Yeah. Like not like that. The same thing is true of like squirting, and like people can squirt without, having the physiological kind of climax that people imagine or have experienced. There's different types of orgasm. There's different types of climax. People with penises can orgasm without ejaculating. Like there's a whole spectrum. Are you all blushing? Sometimes I forget that people don't talk like this all day, every day.
I know this is like everyday conversation for
It's
people
so
like us.
normal. It's so normal.
Have you
So
been fisted today? Yeah, what time is it?
define. I was girl. Don't fill all my environment. Okay. So the point is, not everybody squirts. Not everybody is going to squirt from a certain type of stimulation. Some people will squirt without orgasming, right? Like I think that answers it, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily the same thing, and it's not indicative of
Excellent.
anything, right?
Yeah, squirting does not necessarily mean orgasm, or vice versa. Or
And some people only squirt once in their life and
yeah,
never again. And I feel like sometimes people who squirt are like really special about it. Like, does everyone know what squish means? I grew up in Scarborough. I don't know
smush.
if squish. Like, it's like that's like the way that we privilege certain types of sex or sexual expressions. It's like, oh, squirting is like the top tier of like
Yeah.
vulvic and vaginal responses to sex. So it's like not everybody has this experience, right? And I also think it puts a lot of pressure on partners and people who are having sex. And also, at the end of the day, sex is not a performance experience. And also, orgasm isn't the goal of sex.
Correct.
It is
Ooh,
a goal, but it's not the goal.
yeah. Orgasm's not the be all end all. Oh my God, there's so many things you can do. Oh, speaking of orgasms, actually, I'm going to open this question to the entire panel. Next question I have here is, what's a normal amount of orgasms to have during sex, and how long should sex be? Anyone that wants to answer?
Okay, you have to bear with me because I fall off. So I have to like switch gears in my brain. Um, I don't think there's a number. It's personal to you. I think the main thing is, did you feel safe? Did you feel cared for? Did you feel seen? Was the consent ongoing? Like those things are more should be more valuable, but also different. Maybe you do place a lot of work importance on orgasm, and that's fine too. That's your personal experience. But I think that if you felt those things and you felt a certain level of comfort and respect, that should track whether or not.
Agreed. All right. Well, next question I have here for Sam D. Can lesbians get STIs?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly the way you did it, but other yeah. People tend to think of like STIs as this thing that's very like penis in vagina, penis in anus, and that's the only way you can ever get any of it. Like that's not how it works, folks. If folks don't know, it's, a lot of you are young. There's like dental dams that you can get in any sexual health
or make one
office,
out of a
or
condom.
make one out of a condom. You can just cut one up. It's very fun, and then you can just put those. Y'all calling me out over any type of vagina, anus, and you can just use it for oral sex, right? Like anything can be passed on through sexual fluids, through blood. Like we're talking about, how things actually transmit, right? You're not going to get HIV from a toilet seat or from a hug, right? But when we're talking about sexual fluids, we're talking about anybody's sexual fluids, right? And there's always different percentages and blah, blah, blah. What is the risk? But I think the most important thing is to communicate with your partner, to be honest, to get tested frequently, right? If you're doing all of those things, then that can just be part of your sex life. It doesn't have to be, the big stigma of, oh my God, STIs, right? we can just have these conversations and we can, mitigate risk in a way that is safe and comfortable for everyone.
I might add to that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think, that talking about STIs or STBBIs is like, sexually transmitted or bloodborne infections, right? Like, that means it's like there is that. I just saw a one. Number one. That's not what it means. But there's so many ways to transmit it, and different STIs transmit in different ways. And like I think that a lot of people think that like when it's like vulva to vulva or like mouth to vulva, that's not going to happen. But also we can't forget that trans women are lesbians too, and some trans women have penises. So it's like there is still anybody if you're fucking, it's a chance, and it's part of sex, and like that's also okay. It's either treatable or manageable. And the person who spoke before us talked a lot about that in depth here, and it was like, there's your body and bodies and what matters most.
Preach. Well, I think we have time for maybe one audience question. If there's someone out there that's got a burning question, someone's a little too shy. That's okay. You can always DM any one of us. But last question: yes or no, Julia? If I don't want to have kids, do I still have to have a period?
I mean, you could get the plastic IUD for
Mm.
3 to 5 years and stop it for some people. There's a 10-year IUD for one, but we'll have to see what it looks like here. You can also just get a hysterectomy too, but unfortunately there aren't a lot of options to if somebody's on an oral contraceptive, so they're on the pill, you can stack them. So I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor or a nurse. I spent many years in Planned Parenthood as like a peer educator. And if you're on the pill, it's basically like either you skip your sugar pills, that's 7-day placebo, and you just start a new pack, or if your pack doesn't have the 7-day placebo, you just start a new pack. And there's also seasonal. There used to be one called like Seasonal, and it was like this panel's not sponsored by Seasonal, but like there was one where it was like you took it 3 months straight through, you would get a period. You get 3 months through, you get a period. There's no harm to you by doing that. It's just that when you do have a period, you can only do it a few times a year. It's just going to be a little bit rough. Like it's going to be like probably going to be crampier. Like there's going to be different types of you know period byproduct that you're not used to. But anyway, that's the whole. We can skip it.
Let's give it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was a question actually. Yes.
Sure. So as I was saying, not a doctor, always check with your medical professionals when it comes to it. But essentially, when you're on a hormonal method of birth control, what's happening is it's challenging. It's essentially kind of like using your body into thinking that you don't need to produce uterine lining because the lining is there to like cushion a fertilized egg. So when you're on those pills, your body is not developing the lining in the same way that it would if you weren't on a method of birth control. So safe in terms of like, are you going to have negative health outcomes? Like, not likely, right? I can't give you like the numbers or the stats around me. Um, but it's one of those things where it's like it's suggested that after however many months you do let a cycle go. And again, it's like the comfort or discomfort that you feel when you actually have your period. That's more of the like unwanted outcome, but there's no like longer term damaging effects. And I think that at the end of the day, it's like you have to pay attention to your own body. Like it's like if your body's not feeling right, then that's the only indicator that you need, right? As opposed to like, well, I'm supposed to feel like this. So chat with your doctor, but
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Samantha, Janika, Samantha, and Jace. And thank you all for your time and have an excellent No Time to Wait.
Feeling so I could give a high five to the pilot. Yeah, family tight, I keep small circle like island. Whoa, inbox.
So earlier today, we introduced the Sex Lives Report. Sex Lives Report talks about the impact of sex ed on youth sexual behavior. You'd be wondering, why are we bringing up this report again? Well, we've been spending the entire afternoon talking about sex, not in the most conventional methods that you may have heard earlier in the day, but today we really want to encourage the type of communication that we do at Let's Not Be. We decided to take a different approach. We've learned that school presentations aren't for everyone. We've learned that sometimes websites or Instagram are also not for everyone. So we had to figure out an alternative. And I went to my team and brainstormed with an idea of how can we try to get across the message that our lives, focusing on sex, really matters, and we need to make sure that we can learn more about this. I'd like to introduce to you two individuals who are part of our leadership team, and one who's digital content manager, and as well Tad Camille, who's a development manager, and they'll introduce something.
So, okay, so Shannon really talked us up there. So thank you, Shannon. But we did do a little bit of a campaign brainstorm because we know it's not for everyone, and not everyone wants to sit there all day and read a long report. As interesting as it is, because it was written by a very, very special over there. Everyone give her a round of applause. But I can let Tad explain the campaign a little bit.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure, like Dana said, that the report spoke to an audience that maybe necessarily wouldn't sit down and read the whole thing, right? And I think we both come from creative backgrounds, so for us, a way to do that was like photography, art, fashion, all of those creative fields to really tap into that message. So we conceptualized a campaign to go alongside the report, which aimed to really humanize the data in the report, tell the story from the point of view of young Canadians, all the things that the report discusses, which is quite broad. I think our campaign focuses on one of the many stories that the report tells. But yeah, I won't say much more. I'll let you have a watch.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
One day, when you do become sexually active, you're going to need to know how to protect yourself. But this is something everyone will have to go through at some point in their life. And now you know, the only way to be 100% safe. I think that's all you need to know for now. Any questions? No? Great.